This story begins on Hinge, where I met my first SP. We went on 2 dates, and I tried to see her a third time, but she basically rejected me, saying that she doesn't see that we are compatible. So things kind of ended there. I never really did fully stop thinking about her. There's just something about her that, kept her in my mind. So, fast forward 2 years later, life started moving pieces around in ways that I could have never planned. So, my upstairs neighbor, he threw a party in our backyard in August, and I met a guy there. We're just gonna call him Joe. Um, Coincidentally, Joe had been in the same grad school department and same year as the girl from Hinge, which we'll just call Molly from here on out. At the time, I didn't really think much of it. But months later, Joe invited me to his birthday party in the spring. So I went, and there I met one of his friends. Let's just call her Sarah. So me and Sarah clicked immediately and became really good friends. We started hanging out all the time. And then one day I found out that Sarah worked with Molly, the Hinge girl. So that summer, Sarah invited me to a company beach party, but it ended up getting rained out the day of. So instead, she ended up inviting me and Molly to grab pizza for lunch. And this was the first time me and Molly had seen each other since our 2 dates years before. So it was a little awkward because, I knew she rejected me, she knew she rejected me, but clearly, this was not the end of our story. So later that summer, Sarah hosted a picnic, and Joe and Molly were there too. And this time we did feel like we had chemistry. We talked more. I found out she volunteered at a local park, so I asked her to send me the details because I also wanted to get involved. So 2 weeks later, Joe hosts a bonfire, and Molly texts me asking if I'm going and some more details on the volunteering work. So I ended up meeting her there, and again, our chemistry was pretty much undeniable. A couple weeks later, she invites me and Sarah over one weekend morning to make banana bread and have coffee. So Sarah ended up not being able to go, so it was just me and Molly. And at this point, I was definitely interested, but I could still sense that Molly wasn't fully into me romantically. It's just that feeling you have. And later that week, she texts me saying she's not looking for anything romantic and would love to just be friends. And this all happened because I had texted her something that she completely misread. She basically thought I was trying to date her, which I was not. I was talking about something completely different about another couple. But when she sent that text, I'm not gonna lie, my stomach totally dropped. But this is where Neville Goddard changed everything for me. I let myself feel the disappointment and I didn't suppress it. But after feeling it, I just let it go. Then I decided internally that this is not the final story. I accepted being friends outwardly, but inwardly I knew she would change her mind. So I started solely focusing on me. I started inviting her to the gym on Sundays and we started going together every once in a while. And one Sunday she casually told me that she was going on a third date with a guy. And again, my stomach dropped. But again, I just let myself feel it and then I let it pass. And then I returned to the version of me that I wanted to be. So I focused on feeling desired, wanted, chosen. I told myself that I was the only thing on her mind. I would listen to upbeat and powerful music and use that to my power to really embody the confidence that I wanted. And I changed the way I saw myself. And something I also did was I made a private Twitter account that kind of became my manifestation journal. So every day I wrote affirmations like I am wanted, I am always first choice, I'm unforgettable, and no one compares to me. And meanwhile, in the 3D world, we just kept hanging out like normal friends. So by now it's around Christmas time. She messages me and asks if I want to hang out because she's going to be around. She's going to be in town. She's not going home. So we ended up traveling to a nearby state and stayed overnight in a hotel. We went to a museum. We had dinner. Nothing romantic happened, but I could feel movement behind the scenes. We were just purely friends on this trip. And that's one of the biggest lessons I've learned through all this. Just because you can't see movement doesn't mean nothing is happening. So at that time, she was still dating the guy, but I refused to react to appearances. And in my heart, I knew I was unique and I knew no one compared to me. And then the cracks started to show. She began telling me she wasn't sure if she liked him. So now it's around New Year's, and I felt a bit down because I knew she was spending New Year's Eve with him, but I persisted. I kept affirming that I was always on her mind and that no one could compare to me. So a week after New Year's, we hung out and made dinner together. I asked her how her New Year's was and joked about whether she had gotten her New Year's kiss. And she basically told me that she couldn't kiss him. I was kind of shocked at this moment, but she said she realized she couldn't be with him and ended things on New Year's Day. She also said she thought maybe she just didn't want to date men. And to me, this was confirmation that everything was shifting. But I didn't stop there. I kept persisting. We got closer, we flirted more. Then, about a month later, she came over to make dinner. And at the end of the night, she looked at me and said, "Can I ask you something?" And then she asked if I wanted to date her. She told me she realized her feelings for me were more than friendships and that there was something deeper there. So later I had found out that she was talking to her therapist about me and figuring out how to tell me since she had rejected me in the past already. So that's when I truly understood Neville's teaching. You never know how it's unfolding. Your job is not to force the middle, your job is to persist in the end. And it didn't stop there. Once we started dating, I wanted exclusivity. So I kept journaling daily, staying in the state of being chosen. And about 3 weeks later, she asked to be exclusive. So, all in all, that took about 8 months since I really dialed down and focused on myself and how I felt about myself to being exclusive. So, I mean, I'll be honest, the relationship eventually ended. We were very different people with very different interests and ultimately not the best long term match. But I do also believe I slipped back into old thinking and stopped consciously applying the law. But that taught me another powerful lesson is that manifestation isn't a one time trick, it's a way of being, a constant process of self concept, awareness, and choosing your inner reality. And even though that relationship ended, no one can take away what it proved to me, which was circumstances do not matter, the middle does not matter, and what you assume, persistent, and embody hardens into fact. I have another story I'll post in a couple days about how I got my current SP, kind of in the same fashion. If you liked hearing this, let me know what more you want to hear about, and thanks for listening.